there. You mentioned that there's no very small number of dengue. Is that
Yes,
right?
that's right. The dengue cases each year are quite small compared to here. Yes.
And then when you release that the mosquito with the Wolbachia, is there and how is the frequency of the occurrence of the dengue?
So in all of the locations in Australia, in Cairns, where we've put Wolbachia out, we've seen, once Wolbachia gets to about 80% in the mosquito population, we're not seeing any evidence of dengue transmission, so zero transmission occurring. And that's been the same for every site we've worked in around the world. Once we have a high level of Wolbachia, we're not seeing evidence of local transmission. We still might see some cases because people acquire the dengue in another location and bring it in, but not seeing any local transmission occurring. But we need to really measure that with a clinical trial accurately, and that's what we want to do at the project here.
My question is when the cases is so low and then you release the mosquito with Wolbachia.
Yeah.
So what, I mean,
So the difficulty we have with low cases, if you want to measure a difference, then you're better to do it in an area where you have a lot of cases, and then you'll see the impact more easily. And that's why we're wanting to do efficacy trial here and in Vietnam as well, so both those locations. So we can more easily measure the impact of the intervention in this sort of epidemiological setting than we can in Cairns. We can say, you know, we can see quite clearly that from the observational data that looks like an impact in Australia, but there's just not enough dengue cases coming through for us to run a powered trial at the level that we would like to that would generate a Lancet paper. Yeah.
Sorry, is your question about also the fact that why did we release in Australia while dengue is not a major problem? Was it also your question?
In
Cairns, yes.
Cairns, the dengue cases is very low.
Yeah.
And why we did that in
exactly.
that area.
Yeah, I had the same question. I'm not Australian, and I was like, why are they doing that? And so Australians are really scared about dengue, really scared about dengue. I visited those two sites, and I was, you know, it's incredible how they talk about it. And
were you wondering why that the Australians would let these mosquitoes go if they didn't have very much dengue, or? Residents living there are quite fearful of dengue, as Evij was indicating. But there was another thing to it as well. You know, this was Australian-generated technology, and we wanted to do it in our own communities first, rather than going to another country and saying, here's our technology, we're going to use your population as the first people to receive this intervention to see if it works. So we thought that ethically we didn't like the ethics of that, and so for us we wanted to see it deployed into Australian communities first, and the Australian communities were very happy to receive it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it possible that the virus and the Wolbachia present at the same mosquito?
Yes, you can get Wolbachia and virus in the same mosquito, but often the virus is excluded from key tissues, like salivary glands, and so it doesn't end up in the saliva, but it can be in parts of the body. With regards to the mechanism, we think two things are going on. We think that Wolbachia is enhancing the immune system of the mosquito to make it harder for the virus to grow. And we think it's also competing with key subcellular molecules like cholesterol within the mosquito. And I believe on your sheets here, there is a handout that we prepared last night, which just shows you papers that, if you have an interest, that give you what's known about the current mechanism of how Wolbachia works. But just in very brief summary, we think it's these two things going on, is about boosting the innate immune system and competing for key fatty acids like cholesterol. So you can have a mosquito that has Wolbachia, that has dengue virus in the mosquito, in the gut or in the body, but you don't see the virus in the saliva. So it doesn't get transmitted back out of the insect. That's okay?
The virus and the Wolbachia can be transmitted to another mosquito when they mate.
So it's not transmitted sexually when they mate, it's transmitted vertically, mother to children. So through her eggs. So the Wolbachia is transovarally transmitted. Yes. But the virus, it doesn't go anywhere, it just stays within that insect. Yeah. Yes.
First time, how Wolbachia could possible transfer horizontally? Probably, you know, from the evolutionary history, that's Wolbachia present in several insects. So you can build up phylogenetic tree of Wolbachia. Especially, you can compare. There are differences Wolbachia in insect and nematode. This is my first question.
Yeah. So can I answer that one because I don't have a very good memory as I get older.
Thank you.
Yes. So we know from doing phylogenetic work that clearly Wolbachia has moved between insect species horizontally. But the view of the experts in the area is that those transfer events occur over evolutionary timescales, so they're quite rare. They don't occur very often. We think that Wolbachia first entered insects with molecular clock evidence around 20 million years ago, and then it has been slowly increasing through horizontal transfer events until now. Approximately 60% of insects have it, are naturally infected with Wolbachia or different Wolbachia strains. The experts in the area that I've spoken to, their opinion is that now that there is about 60% of insects have Wolbachia, if you could time travel forward another 5 million years and look again, you might see that value has moved from 60% up to 80%. And maybe if you could go forward another 10 or 15 million years, you might find that the frequency in insects is going to be closer to 90%. So the view is that Wolbachia is slowly increasing its host range through these rare horizontal transfer events.
Okay. Transfer Wolbachia from what they call flies, yeah, Drosophila,
Yes.
into mosquitoes, and you try to keep a higher titer or higher number of Wolbachia in Aedes, yeah, and then how you, if we want to eliminate this Wolbachia that had already appeared in Aedes in the field. Is it possible?
So the question is, if you released Wolbachia and you were concerned about it, could you recall it? Could you pull it back? Yes. And so I think there are two possible mechanisms that you could use to do that. One is to locally eliminate the mosquito. So if you have released into an area and then you wish to pull it back, then if you were to use a very comprehensive insecticide campaign, you should be able to kill all of the insects that have Wolbachia. It would require a very high quality insecticide campaign, and it would be expensive. The other way, and this relates to the Wolbachia, the dynamics of Wolbachia in insect populations that I didn't really talk about, but you have to have Wolbachia above a certain frequency in the insect population before it will invade. And so if you can push its frequency below that level, then it will disappear out of the population. And so we want to get it above that level by releasing mosquitoes that contain Wolbachia, but you could push it below that threshold and so eliminate it by just releasing insects that don't have it. So if you released mosquitoes without Wolbachia, you may be able to push it down. I think, though, that, in South America now, like in here, so the thinking of regulators is that looking at the evidence and the past, the lack of any adverse consequences in the environment, that people are comfortable with moving now to big releases, that they're not so concerned about the need to do recall. Yeah.
Here, I'm worried that the genetic of Wolbachia from flies, and it will be the same with the Wolbachia from recover from the Aedes aegypti. Yeah, I'm concerned here with parasitoid. Some parasitoid, they have a virus symbiont called polydnavirus.
Yep.
They can suppress insect pests, but if the Wolbachia is present together with virus in that insect parasitoid, it will be decrease the effectivity to control the pest. So you
Why would it decrease the effectiveness to control the pest?
Because probably possible that Wolbachia can kill the virus symbiont in insect tissues. So
I think that polydnae viruses are DNA viruses, yeah? So from my understanding of polydnae viruses, and that the Wolbachia blocking effect we see does not affect DNA viruses. All of the viruses I've put up here are RNA viruses, and they're all enveloped RNA viruses, so they have a lipid coating, and that lipid coating is probably how that interaction, so the lipid piece is important for viruses that are going to be affected by Wolbachia. So I think that, we know that DNA viruses, densoviruses, polydnae viruses are not affected by Wolbachia. So I don't think that should be an issue. But I think there's the broader issue that you raise is about Wolbachia transferring and the risk of it transferring into an insect and then having an unintended consequence, like you just indicated. And I, from my opinion, would be that risk already exists, because you have Drosophila melanogaster in the environment now together with Aedes aegypti. So the strain of Wolbachia that we're using is already in the environment, and the risk of that horizontal transfer event occurring is already there, unless there's something very special about the mosquito compared to Drosophila as a potential host to transfer. But I think for me at least, that risk of transfer already exists in the environment, because Wolbachia is already in the environment that Aedes aegypti occurs.
well, it's clearly information, clearly explanation. In another thing, it's where the place exactly Wolbachia block virus replication in insect tissues.
Where does it block it?
Yeah.
It blocks it within the cell, so after virus entry into the cell.
So the virus should be entry in the cell.
We still get normal entry into the cell, but then we see a reduction in replication of the virus once it's in the cell. The mechanism is, there are many papers in your handout about mechanism. It's still being worked out, but it looks very clear that at the moment that Wolbachia is interfering with virus replication. Yes, not packaging, not entry, but but actual replication of the virus.
Right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any possibility of bias because of the higher community awareness against dengue, because the community provided with lots of information about this.
Yeah, and so I think this is a very good point, that there may be bias, but in communities of people seeking healthcare, and there could also be bias in clinicians in their diagnosis if it's not laboratory confirmed, and most dengue diagnosis in Indonesia is not laboratory confirmed, as I understand it. And so we need to be very careful to not put too much emphasis on these reductions that have been seen, and it's in a way that is rigorous. And so that's what's being planned here for Jogjakarta and also Nha Trang in Vietnam, is a gold standard randomized controlled trial where the dengue will be laboratory diagnosed and that we'll be able to get an accurate measurement and minimise the effect of bias in that data. But you're absolutely right. We need to be careful about not over-interpreting the reductions in dengue that I've been showing you as observational data.
Another related question with regard with the non-manifested infection. How to measure the dengue sometimes not manifested as the clinically manifested.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. What sort of dengue infection?
Sometimes when we infected with dengue, then people just healthy and then
they're asymptomatic. Yes.
Asymptomatic. Yes. That's
Yes. Yeah.
So how to measure that if you plan to release in
the trial design, I haven't gone into the trial design that's being proposed for Jogjakarta, but the end point is not serology, it's actually disease cases. So we will not measure asymptomatic in the trial that we plan to do. It's very difficult to measure asymptomatic. Yes. We're worried about, if we were to use a serology endpoint, we have potential confusion with a vent dengue vaccine. If it gets introduced, we have much greater issues of human mobility if we're only bleeding people and looking for antibody responses every 6 months. So people could be travelling outside of Jogjakarta and acquiring during that period. And so we've decided, after a lot of consideration and discussion, that we should be measuring disease as an endpoint in cases.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. My question is about the formerly Aedes aegypti mosquito without Wolbachia inside their body. But now, after you infect the egg of the mosquito injection, and maybe this is not natural, I think. Yeah. Is there after several time, now still can be used as a control for dengue virus by the Wolbachia after they live in the body of the mosquito. But I'm worried, but for a long time using this one, maybe the mosquito behavior will change, and also the behavior of the Wolbachia also change, so maybe they're not effective again to the virus.
Yeah, so there's a couple possible that over time the control could get less, if you like, and I think that's very possible. I think that in biological systems we should expect, just as we do with the use of antibiotics, or that there should be some evolutionary response, and I would expect that over time we should see this method become less effective. The problem is we don't know how long that time is. We can't predict how long that time is. Our evolutionary thinking and our theories framework tells us this should happen, but evolutionary theory cannot tell us the speed at which it happens. So we have done a number of experiments, laboratory evolution experiments, to see whether we can select for resistance, and we have not been able to in the laboratory. So we think, and this has been published, so we think that that it won't happen really quickly, but it may happen. In 1,000 years, it might happen in 50 years, it might happen in 10,000 years. 10,000 years would be nothing in an evolutionary sort of perspective. I would be very happy if we could get 50 years of good protection against dengue while other interventions were developed. The other part of your question, if I understood, is could Wolbachia change key attributes of the behaviour of the mosquito? Maybe it could make the mosquito to bite more or to behave differently. And we have done a number of measurements on that to see whether we can detect any changes in behaviour of the mosquito associated with Wolbachia. And when we put the WML infection in place, we haven't been able to see any modifications to behaviour. Their biting rate looks the same, their host-seeking ability looks the same, their mating propensity seems the same. So we think that the effects are going to be quite small. I'm sort of reassured because Wolbachia is so common in the environment already, including in many mosquitoes that bite us all the time, Culex, some Aedes species. And we're not seeing any really obvious adverse consequences from those natural infections. I agree that this is not natural. We're purposefully doing this for the applied outcome. But yeah, we haven't seen any evidence to suggest that that we're getting any behavioural change. And with regards to the idea of how long will the intervention last, we don't know until we do it. We cannot predict ahead of time, but we hope that we will get a long-lasting effect. I would hope that the effect may last hundreds of years, which, you know, is a tiny time in evolutionary timescale. Sleek. No. They're so, you know, as sperm cells mature, they strip away all the cytoplasm in the cells and are just left with like a needle-like tadpole. And there is no physical room in those mature sperm cells to put big bacteria inside those cells. They all get shed out of the sperm as it matures. But egg cells are very big, you know, they're stacked with nutrients and so forth for the young embryo, and there's plenty of room for Wolbachia to be present in the female. So it's just really about physical exclusion, so that as sperm matures, there's no room for the Wolbachia to be there, so we don't see any paternal transmission. Or occasionally in some insect species it may have been reported. I think from spiders it's reported, but it's quite rare, and I think it's when you have quite unusual sperm biology. Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah. Okay, thank you. It's very interesting talk this morning. I'm just wondering, in connection with the biosafety, especially into environment risk.
Yeah, I think you need to. Yeah.
Into environment risk and other, especially in non-target insect or other animal like discussed before. As far as I know, that this mosquito and the bacterium Wolbachia is new for the environment. If you agree, that's like that. Is it?
It's new for the environment inside the mosquito.
Yes.
But it's not new for the environment generally, because it occurs naturally in the environment, the urban environment of Jogjakarta. The WML strain but it's inside a different insect. It's not in the mosquito, it's in the fruit fly.
Yeah, in regard to that any level of risk, it should be undertaken for the analysis of risk, if you agree. Because as I've learned that from Vietnam and from your country itself, has a document of the analysis of risk of that releasing.
Yes.
And until now we haven't had.
Hopefully you will have at the end of the next 2 days. So that's what you will be doing to consider that risk.
And also probably as far as I know in that Cartagena protocol, that so many approaches that should be looked at that.
So I think Cartagena protocol is something very particular that relates to genetic modification. So I didn't go into it in my talk, but this technology is not GM. So there is a very specific legal definition of what genetic modification or what defines a GMO. And this technology is not GMO by those legal definitions. So,
in part of that regulation is also introducing
introduce a parasitic wasp from one country to another to control an agricultural pest. It's not subject to the Cartagena protocol. And the Wolbachia releases that we've done in the countries are not regulated by the Cartagena Protocol either.
But you introduced Wolbachia from Australia, did you?
The Wolbachia that we infected the mosquitoes in Australia, and then we brought the mosquitoes here, and then we crossed them many times in the laboratory to Indonesian mosquitoes. But the Wolbachia genotype that we used occurs globally. It already occurs. We didn't bring a new Wolbachia into Indonesia. The Wolbachia strain, W. mel, exists in Indonesia already, but not in the mosquito. In the vinegar fruit fly, Drosophila melanogaster, occurs naturally in the environment here. Does that make sense? So the Wolbachia is not new to Indonesia. It came through Australia here, but it already exists here. Do you wish, yeah, maybe you'll have a chance to discuss this, I think, in the risk analysis, yeah.
Paper published a couple years ago mentioned that spreading rate of Wolbachia in Drosophila is very fast in wide area. But yesterday, the results show that Aedes aegypti only spread to the certain area that will be released. If it is right that Aedes aegypti do not move to a far way like this, it's how the effectiveness of biological control, because we have to release in many times on the Aedes aegypti with Wolbachia. Is it effective or not? Maybe like this, my question. Thank you.
So just if that I've shown you in the mosquito is that it does not spread very quickly at all.
Yes, like this, the result show in this here.
And the reason for that, we know why that is now. The reason is because of the dispersal ability of the insect. So Drosophila disperses long distance, whereas the mosquito does not disperse very far at all. And if the insect needs to disperse in order to be able to take the Wolbachia with it. And so the low dispersal of Aedes aegypti is the reason that we are not getting very rapid spread. And so the consequence of that is that you need to release many release points in order to put Wolbachia out. And that can, depending on how you view the technology, that can be either a positive or a negative. Yes.
So the project must continue for a long time like this?
No, it doesn't need to go for a long time, because once you have converted one area, then that area will stay Wolbachia infected, and then you can move to the next area if you like. So you know, if we release mosquitoes in Yogyakarta with Wolbachia, they will not spread and establish in Jakarta, for example. You would have to do an active program in Jakarta as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just continue from the previous question. Your explanation, also in the report, it mentioned that Aedes aegypti, that with Wolbachia, will not establish in outside area. Yes, you mentioned that. It is the Wolbachia reduce the fitness of Aedes aegypti?
Yes.
Or not? And then in an area like Yogyakarta, where dengue is high enough, there is a Ministry of Health program that when they get dengue fever report, the office will come to do a survey, epidemiological survey, and if they find this is dengue, then they will spray. So if we establish the study site in Yogyakarta, mean we will interfere with the program. I mean...
yeah, we don't need to though. So, you know, how we approach this issue is that we do not ask for any change to the existing control programs. So if there is a current program where you have an outbreak of dengue occurs and then you do either source reduction or insecticide control, we think that should continue. you should not change that.
So, but it is not interfere your
No, it
your
won't
protocol.
interfere with us. And actually, it can help us. If you are good at doing insecticide control, you can bring the wild mosquito population down. It makes it easier for the Wolbachia to invade. So we'd be quite happy, actually, with insecticide program if you wish to do. But it's not, we think you should not, ethically, you shouldn't change what your current control practice is. So if your current control practice is to go and spray, that's okay. It would only cause us a problem if you were so good at your spraying, you could eliminate the mosquito completely. But I think that we know from the dengue incidents in Yogyakarta that that's not happening.
Yeah, and still related with the Ministry of Health, because this study will affect the public health, and from the report and also what you present, I have no seen any permission from Ministry of Health. Instead, it's from Agriculture and from the Ministry of Health. No, we have the permission from Ministry of Health, and also here.
I think this might be a better question for some of our local scientists to answer, because that's not an area that I understand that well. Is either Donnie or Yodi able to? Is there about the approvals? Do you want this one?
From the perspective of Ministry of Health, we try to engage them even from the very beginning, and at the phase 2 we have letter from Litbangkes relating. Okay, bahwa kita sudah ada waktu fase kedua kemarin, kita juga dapat semacam surat dari Litbangkes terkait bahwa penelitian ini bisa dilanjutkan. Ada beberapa hal yang harus kami perhatikan. Untuk yang fase ketiga ini yang kita akan lanjutkan, statement dari Kemenkes adalah mereka menunggu hasil dari risk analysis ini dulu sebelum ada endorsement. Jadi itu yang kenapa risk analysis ini menjadi sesuatu yang kritikal bagi kami.
Ya, Pak. Kebetulan kemarin saya ada pertemuan dengan Kemenkes di Batam.
Ya.
Itu dalam pertemuan lintas sektor 21 Januari ada rekomendasi di sini. Balitbangkes telah membuat rekomendasi kepada Menteri Kesehatan yang berisi: 1. Pelepasan dilakukan bertahap, dimulai dari tempat yang menyetujui pelepasan. 2. Keterlibatan Balai Vektor Salatiga dalam monitoring penelitian.
Ya.
Nah, ini yang saya tidak lihat.
Nah itu yang saya sebutkan tadi adalah pada fase kedua itu sudah dilakukan.
Ya, yang Salatiga gimana?
Yang
Karena
Salatiga,
Salatiga sendiri ada di sini.
Yang Salatiga kami libatkan selama ini. Mungkin Pak Warsito selaku entomolog bisa menceritakan.
Ya, sendiri Balai Vektor itu sudah melakukan visit beberapa kali, termasuk semua tim, dan termasuk ke site-site, dan termasuk juga apresiasi terhadap penelitian ini. Jadi artinya dalam sisi monitoring sendiri justru kita adalah orang yang dimonitor, gitu. Kita menunggu responnya. Tetapi kembali bahwa komunikasi antara kita dengan Balai Vektor itu selalu terjaga. Misalnya ada semacam ini, terus ketika pertemuan dengan lintas sektoral, terus ada acara risk assessment dan lain-lainnya itu selalu kita libatkan. Termasuk laporan 3 bulan, dan itu termasuk bagian yang kita libatkan ke dalam Balai Vektor itu. Karena terus ke selanjutnya, kalau yang kita tahu bahwa mandat untuk monitoring itu tidak ke Balai Vektor lagi, tetapi ke BPTL, ya BPTKL untuk wilayah di Yogyakarta. Jadi BPTKL sendiri juga kita sudah approach, waktu itu kita juga undang ke lab dan kita juga membicarakan apa sih kontak monitoringnya. Jadi pada proses fase 2 itu sangat-sangat intens sekali. Kita bahkan juga kita melakukan termasuk meminta untuk dilakukan training, atau kita untuk capacity building dari kita untuk identifikasi nyamuk dan lain-lainnya. Jadi dalam sisi komunikasi it doesn't matter, jadi kita memang selalu melakukan komunikasi itu. Tapi untuk pelibatan dari sendiri mungkin justru dari Balai Vektor yang lebih tahu bagaimana. Tapi kalau kita selanjutnya open, siapapun yang akan monitor, siapapun datang dan lain-lainnya, termasuk mandat itu rujukannya seperti apa, kita follow up semacam itu.
Saya kan bisa mengklarifikasi, ini sebetulnya ini bermula ketika ada diskusi panel di Salah satu rekomendasi dari diskusi itu adalah harus mempunyai dokumen kemudian memperbarui izin, karena izin memasukkan Wolbachia itu dikeluarkan oleh Menteri Pertanian, bukan oleh Menteri terkait atau Menteri Kesehatan. Ini yang menjadi bukan kita tidak menyetujui ini jalan terus, tetapi ini perlu ada proses regulasi yang harus kita patuhi, karena tadi yang sebetulnya saya pertanyakan tadi adalah terkait dengan biosafety and biosecurity. Nah, ini barangkali nanti menjadi pembahasan yang menarik di dalam diskusi ini. Terima kasih.
Oh, yeah. Yes, two questions, Scott. One is related to the mosquito, because Aedes aegypti normally they don't have Wolbachia.
Yes.
Now they have the Wolbachia.
Yes.
The Wolbachia normally in other insects, but not in Aedes aegypti.
That's right.
So there are two new things that become together. The second one, there is also virus, dengue virus,
Yes.
within the Aedes aegypti,
Yep.
and now plus the Wolbachia.
Yep.
And we saw the monitoring in the lab yesterday, and there is a lot of data gathered every day from all of the samples of the mosquitoes for monitoring the Wolbachia, the viruses, and the mosquito itself. Is there any efforts to map all of this data and try to find any minor changes in their molecular structure, where then you could map that, and probably that comes as an evidence of early evolution of those three combinations that we can see?
Yeah, so I think it's a very good point, and it's something scientifically we wish to do. So after we have transferred it into the mosquito, we sequence the whole genome of the Wolbachia and then sequence it at different time points and to see how it is changing or what mutations are accumulating. And so that work, some of that work has been done, and more of that work is being done. At the moment, the mutation accumulation looks very slow, so it looks like the mutation is not happening. With regards to the mosquito, it's much more complicated because the mosquito genome is so much bigger to do. But there has been some work being done by a collaborator using RADseq markers, and Ari Hoffman at Melbourne is doing this work, and he's looking to see whether Wolbachia is affecting the genetics of the mosquito population. And so far, there has not been any evidence from that work to suggest any major changes happening in the mosquito, but that work will continue to see, as a marker for evolution. And then the last one is the virus. And we can really only get an idea of the virus once we have deployed the Wolbachia into the field. We've done some experimental evolution work, putting passaging virus through mosquitoes in the laboratory to see whether we select for certain genotypes. But that work we've been looking to see whether we can select for genotypes that escape the blocking resistance to develop, and we haven't been able to do that. But we think what we need to do is when we deploy Wolbachia over large areas, be looking at the virus evolution in that context, and that's something that we have planned to do, but we can't do until we have done the deployment. And I agree, I think it would be very interesting to do. None of the things that we have seen so far with what has been done gives us cause for any concern, but I think the virus piece we need to study going forward.
Although that is minor, but influence the major behavior or whatever from the viruses itself, from the Wolbachia.
There have been some papers published on, whether we would cause selection for greater virulence or whatever. I think there's a very good paper by Torelli and Bull that's worth looking at about the evolutionary trajectory of the virus and whether that should influence these sort of release programs, where they say that it shouldn't, and that they don't see any evidence to suggest that you're going to get selection of viruses to be more virulent. And in some ways, these questions are very similar if you were to introduce a vaccine. For example, there is a dengue vaccine from Sanofi Pasteur that doesn't give complete protection. And so the issues around evolution of the virus in a vaccinated population of humans would be very similar to the evolutionary questions of vaccinated mosquito population, if you like, with Wolbachia. But it doesn't seem to come up, though, in the vaccine context.
Yes, this question actually related to the social and cultural typical of Yogyakarta. From the last meeting with people there is some questions about how safe this technology. And I think the communication efforts is required, I don't know, more than double to be able to get more support from the people for the deployment. I don't know what happened with the public perception in your project in Brazil, in Colombia, in Vietnam, before the development. Is there any concern from the people?
It's been really quite surprising that the community has been very strongly supportive in all areas. And what we're finding is really interesting is that after we have started to deploy, people believing they can see the impact and they're asking. So in Brazil, we're facing the situation where neighbouring areas to where we have released are complaining that we have not released there yet. Why? When will we release? And actually the community is starting to pull or want the intervention to come, which is quite trial we did here. There was some community concern about release in one of the areas, and so we did not release in that area. And usually that is our response. If the community does not want, then we won't force. And so if the community doesn't want, then we won't. The community has to want it. And I think when we approach it that way, the community, we've found that communities have been very supportive, generally, yeah.
Yes, because we also need to consider who opposed to the deployment.
Yes.
And that probably will become our group discussion to enrich the model that you have already in 3 different countries.
I think the important point, I'd just like to stress it for us, is that if the community tells us that they do not want the intervention, then we don't deploy it. So, and that requires us to have, needs us to have methods to measure the community acceptance. But we're not wanting to put the intervention into places where communities don't want to have it. And part of that is that we want to provide as much information as we can to people in a way that it can be understood for them to evaluate that themselves. Yeah.
Because there is a potential conflict. If, let's say, my house is okay for the intervention and my neighbor house, they don't want to, although there is some limited distribution of the mosquito itself, but there is possibility where the mosquito could spread, you know, in distance compared to whatever the
so there's a few different layered things there. There's about, you know, how do you feel about mosquitoes being released near you and you don't want to be bitten by them? How do you feel about the idea of the intervention being deployed generally? And then there's an ethical issue, I think, that's a bioethical issue, which is quite interesting, is about for a public health intervention, you know, to what extent do you need to have community acceptance to deploy? So, you know, in Australia, we make it a requirement that children be vaccinated against a certain number of vaccine-preventable illnesses. And it's a requirement. You have to have your child vaccinated before they can enter a school, even if you don't agree with it personally. And so this is an interesting tension point, I think, in bioethics around individual freedom to choose versus public health intervention that covers the population and for the good of the population, and how does that tension get resolved? And I think in each different cultural things it gets resolved differently. Yeah.
That will be the concern when we do the large scale deployment.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I want to ask about the area you did the trial, are those areas free from other infectious disease? I mean the vector-borne disease, apart from the dengue problem in that area.
You mean in the other countries?
Yeah,
Or-
because you did the trial in Brazil, Colombia, and so on.
Yeah.
Are in those areas where you release the Wolbachia Aedes, there is no other problem apart from dengue. In particular, no other vector-borne disease.
There has been transmission of chikungunya going on, but at quite a low level in different areas. But we have been trying to measure that at all. So I think that there has been some other virus transmission in the cities that we are working in, but it's not something at this stage that we have been trying to measure.
Okay, because my concern about the vector-borne disease, in particular in the tropic area, like in Indonesia, and not only the dengue, the viral disease, but also non-viral disease, such as the filaria, anopheles, malaria, and so on, and may some bacteria. So, and you mentioned in the presentation that Culex has also Wolbachia. Yeah. Yeah, while Culex is a factor for filaria here. That is the W. bancrofti filaria. That is in urban area. While in rural area, Aedes can be the factor for filaria, such as in Haiti, Polynesia, and also in Papua. And here in Indonesia, we have 3 species of filaria, W. bancrofti and also the Brugian species. And then this Brugian species also can be propagated in Aedes, because from our experience in my lab, we maintain the Brugia life cycle in Aedes togoi, while in other lab we use Aedes aegypti for Brugia life cycle. So my concern, if we propagate this Aedes aegypti with Wolbachia, will it in the long run will become another factor for filaria, and in that way it will transmit the filaria, and in the long run, and because we have problem to eliminate the lymphatic filariasis, so we are thinking if this Aedes will be a factor for filaria, then it will be counterproductive for the elimination program. That's what we think.
Yeah, okay. So I think that this is, you've expressed it with regards to filarial nematodes, but it broadened to say, is it possible that Wolbachia makes a mosquito a vector for something that is no longer?
Yeah.
And so we've been quite concerned about that, and so there's been a lot of studies done on that already, and the published literature now, it's already published, those studies. And certainly we have an example where the mosquito has become a better vector for any pathogen that it can transmit that we know of. And this is the list that's been tested so far. So, I would be very surprised if that was to happen. We don't consider that to be a major problem. If anything, we think it will have, of Aedes transmitted pathogens, it will actually improve the situation, which is why the World Health Organization has given the endorsement for it to start to be deployed against Zika as well as dengue.
Yeah, the problem is like Zika, we don't know the burden of Zika in Indonesia. Well, for filaria we know, and then
I guess the point I'm making is it can only help.
I would like to suggest that to measure the factor competence for Aedes aegypti infected with Wolbachia, it is very easy because we have filaria patient here, so we can do.
It's done. It's published. It's been published. Yeah.
But that is for
You'd like me
Buncia
to find, I can pull the article if you like for you and give you a copy today to help you if you like. But the work with filaria has been done. It can always be extended, and we can always be doing more studies and new studies to build a more comprehensive view, and I think that is a good thing. But is there a risk at the moment that Wolbachia may make filarial disease worse? I don't believe there is, based on what is published in the peer-reviewed scientific literature now.
Yeah, it will not do instantly because filaria, not like dengue, yeah, it needs the way it transmits. It needs multiple bites, and also it takes long time.
But
I think that it will just add another factor, more factor for transmission of filaria.
Let me pull the paper for you so you have the scientific evidence in front of you to help you formulate your opinion. So, of what has been published about the impact of Wolbachia on filarial nematodes, I can find for you and get for you.
Yeah.
Oke, ini kok kayaknya mati nyala ya. Oke. Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Anyway, oke, jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian terima kasih banyak kehadirannya. Saya melihat ada beberapa orang yang baru yang semalam belum datang. Mungkin kalau bisa biar kenalan, saya melihat Pak Rosikon mungkin bisa memperkenalkan diri karena semalam kita sudah kenalan. Sudah lama sekali dan karena beliau yang mengepalai EDP global gitu. Really. Oke, kalau saya apa-apa kedengeran kan ya, daripada hilang-hilang gitu. Oke, gitu. I'll just have my voice bigger. Oke, jadi itu macam diskusi kekhawatiran dan sebagainya itu justru marilah kita tumpahkan ke dalam topik-topik yang nanti akan dibagi di dalam 4 topik, ecology, social economy, management, oke. Dan yang terakhir saya lupa apa? Sosioekonomi, ecology, management, dan public health. Oke. Nah, kalau kita melihat bahwa selama ini sebetulnya berbagai strategi pengendalian telah kita lakukan untuk malaria atau demam berdarah. Ya, untuk demam berdarah ini sudah kita berbagai macam kita lakukan. Tapi selama ini ternyata kematian dan orang-orang yang kena penyakit demam berdarah toh masih banyak sekali. Nah, itulah yang kemudian ketika suatu hari di tahun 80-an orang menemukan Wolbachia dan menemukan bahwa ternyata ada cytoplasmic incompatibility, artinya kalau nyamuk yang infeksi dengan nyamuk yang tidak infeksi kawin itu tidak bisa punya anak. Kemudian mulailah sains berpikir, menarik, ketika dia ada bakteri, kenapa kok dia bisa menjadi tidak punya anak? Mungkin ini adalah pengendalian nyamuk masa depan. Ketika itu saya masih kuliah di Amerika, dan yang memberikan kuliah ekologi serangga adalah May Barenbaum, and that was back in 1987 gitu ya. Jadi 86 itu mereka sudah mengatakan this will be the future. Dan kemudian ketika saya mendengar ini pertama kali dari teman-teman Australia, Pak Warsito, this was back in, I don't know, 2000 berapa? Ketika itu mulai datang, 2010, 2011, saya mikir, oh my God, saya jadi ingat kuliah saya tahun 86, 87 ketika itu. Jadi memang sains itu selalu katanya kan berusaha untuk menemukan teknologi untuk mengatasi masalah kehidupan. Dan dalam proses itu, new knowledge are constructed. Oke, berikutnya. Jadi kenapa kita hari ini ada di sini? Ya, kita hari ini ada di sini karena ternyata begitu banyak unknowns. Ya, the unknowns brought about by new scientific and technological development. Jadi ada sebuah teknologi baru, sains menemukan sesuatu yang baru, teknologi diciptakan itu kemudian kita jadi gamang, the unknowns. Oke, berikutnya. So, some thoughts about science and technology. Ya, kita sebagai background ini saja bahwa sebetulnya selalu akan ada uncertainty in science. Kenapa? Ya karena manusia, kemampuan kita untuk memahami alam kan bagaimanapun pasti akan terbatas. Jadi asal kita paham aja bahwa pasti ada uncertainty, ini sesuatu yang harus kita terima. Nah, sehingga ketika ada teknologi-teknologi yang baru itu memang perlu kita sangat berhati-hati. Mungkin itu sebabnya kenapa kita semua gamang. Nah, kemudian kita harus ingat juga bahwa sebetulnya science is actually a community endeavor. It relies on a systems of checks and balances, which helps ensure that science moves in the direction of greater accuracy and understanding. The system is facilitated by the diversity within the scientific community, which offers a broad range of perspective on scientific ideas. That's why we are here today. Ya, jadi kita ada di sini karena kita ini berasal dari diversity within the scientific community untuk bersama-sama membicarakan the unknowns di dalam konteks nyamuk yang sudah diinfeksi oleh Wolbachia. Berikutnya, Pak Nandi. Satu hal lagi yang memang perlu kita ingat bersama-sama lagi ya. Kita sudah melihat bahwa tidak ada pengaruh ini, tidak ada pengaruh itu. Yang harus diingat saja, apakah is the absence of evidence equals to the evidence of absence? Ini juga yang perlu kita ingat ketika kita membuat risiko, analisa risiko nanti. Ya, berikutnya. Oke, dan ini karena kita sadar bahwa science itu is always ongoing. Science is continually refining and expanding our knowledge of the universe, and as it does, it leads to new question and future investigation. Ya, jadi sains itu memang tidak bisa diserahkan saja kepada para saintis lah begitu ya, atau technicality-nya hanya pada saintis dan orang-orang non-saintis tidak boleh terlibat, tidak ya, karena people all over the world participate in the process of science. Dan ini adalah bukti dari itu. Hari ini Project EDP membuktikan itu bahwa mereka ingin merangkul semuanya dan membicarakan ini, the process of science itself. Berikutnya. Jadi tujuan hari ini, 2 hari ini, kita mengidentifikasi implikasi yang tidak diinginkan dalam hal keselamatan terhadap manusia dan lingkungan yang mungkin dapat terjadi akibat pelepasan. Ya, jadi kita akan mengidentifikasi implikasi itu apa. Nah, itu yang disebut dengan proses analisa risiko. Berikutnya, prosesnya itu sendiri, kenapa kok Bapak Ibu yang sampai ke sini ceritanya ya. Jadi tadi Pak Rosikon sudah menerangkan sebetulnya ya, bahwa dalam sebuah pertemuan ternyata diamanatkan bahwa harus ada kegiatan analisa risiko. Nah, ketika itu kemudian Kemendikbud membentuk tim inti. Nah, tim intinya adalah 5 orang, yaitu saya sendiri, kemudian Ibu Upi, Pak Irawan, Pak Hari, dan Ibu Aryati. Oke. Nah, kemudian kami diminta untuk memilih sekitar 20 orang tambahan. Kemudian kita memilih sekitar 30. Bagaimana dasar pemilihan itu? Nah, itu memang tergantung dari expert judgment dari tim 5 ini. Ya. Jadi ada yang merasa, ya kalau kayak saya gitu, saya merasa, wah kita perlu orang sosial ekonomi yang mantap, kita perlu orang filsafat, ya, sehingga saya waktu itu bilang, wah Ibu Karina Supeli harus ada di sini, karena kita harus berpikir hal-hal yang beyond, yang mungkin tidak bisa ditangkap oleh orang-orang teknikal. Nah, kemudian Bu Upi ketika itu, wah ini harus ada, saya lupa Bu Upi memilih siapa gitu. Jadi itulah, jadi Bapak Ibu itu dipilih karena mungkin kenal dengan salah satu dari 5 orang ini. Begitu. Tapi tentu saja pemilihan itu juga berdasarkan expert judgment karena kami sangat percaya atas scientific quality of Bapak Ibu semua. Oke, kemudian setelah pembentukan ini ada expert dari CSIRO, yaitu Ibu Justin dan Pak Paul. Ini mereka yang memang ahli analisa risiko. Jadi kami hari ini akan belajar bersama-sama dari mereka bagaimana melokasikan itu untuk konteks Indonesia. Mereka sudah membantu di Vietnam dan juga di Australia. Nah, kemudian ahli Wolbachia-nya memang tadi Pak Scott O'Neill langsung dari Monash, sehingga ada pertemuan 4 hari ini terdiri dari tim inti dan tim expert dan harusnya bersama-sama 4 hari ini kita diskusi dari kemarin sebetulnya ya, atau dari minggu sebetulnya. Oke, berikutnya. Nah, kerangka pendekatannya nanti akan diterangkan oleh Justin, tapi intinya memang nanti akan melakukan, akan ada pertanyaan seperti ini, bagaimana mengidentifikasi risiko, bagaimana mengakses implikasi, dan bagaimana mengakses kemungkinan kejadian seperti apa, sehingga kemudian kita bisa menghitung ketidakpastian. Ya, pendekatannya begitu. Oke, nah jadi outputnya itu harusnya dalam 2 hari ini kita mendapatkan hazard identification and mapping, likelihood of risk, consequence of risk, dan risk estimation. Jadi tadi kekhawatiran Bapak Ibu semua itu bisa ditumpahkan di sini sebetulnya. Sehingga ini menjadi sebuah laporan yang kemudian diberikan kepada Kemenristek Dikti, kemudian Kemenristek lah yang nanti kemudian akan membaca dan melihat, wah ternyata analisa risikonya bla 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 bla, waduh tahan dulu gitu. Atau, wah ternyata oke, berdasarkan expert judgment, mungkin ini oke, bisa dilepas. Jadi ini memang sangat kritis Bapak Ibu. Jadi masa depan Wolbachia di Indonesia gitu, bisa dikatakan ada di tangan Bapak Ibu semua. Terakhir, oke, penutup aja. I'm a sucker for quotes. I just love quotes. I don't know why. But E.O. Wilson adalah seorang ahli semut. He is a taxonomist, biologist, evolution, everything. And I just love this quote that he was that he gave when he was interviewed. And this is what he said: "The real problem of humanity is the following: we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. And it is terrifically dangerous and is now approaching a point of crisis overall." I thought it was just interesting to think that we have Paleolithic emotions, whatever that means, yeah, Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, okay, but we have godlike technology. Jadi sains dan teknologi itu akan membawa kita kemana untuk kehidupan, itu mungkin yang perlu menjadi latar belakang bagi analisa risiko. Oke, demikian. Jadi terima kasih Bapak Ibu. Jadi itu hanya sekedar pengantar kenapa kita hari ini ada di sini, dan timnya sudah kenal semuanya. Nanti akan dibagi grup-grupnya, nanti akan dipresentasikan oleh Ibu Upi. Tapi sebelum itu saya akan mempersilahkan Ibu Justin untuk, Justin, it's your turn now, untuk menyampaikan global picture tentang apa yang akan kita lakukan untuk hari ini dan juga besok pagi. Demikian, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.